Good morning. Okay, so I just have a quick word for you guys today regarding your children in this hour. You know, how many of you have ever been on an aircraft or a plane when there's turbulence? I know I hate heights and travel a lot, and I cannot stand when the turbulence starts. And the first thing, come on, what do? Is we grab onto our seat, we quickly look around to make sure, is everybody else panicking? And we start releasing these thoughts to the pilot, like, oh my gosh, we're going to crash. And, I've even had this, like, do I need to hurry up and grab my phone and send that one last text and tell somebody that I love them? And, you start thinking when there's turbulence that we're going to die. And we go right to the worst thing, and we start releasing that in our seats. And I've been so convicted of this that as much as I hate turbulence, that when I fly, I feel like the Lord has been saying, no, you stop right there and you start declaring over the pilot. He knows what he's doing. He's done this before. He's trained. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been through turbulence before. It's not rocking him just because it's rocking me. And so I start intentionally releasing something different over the pilot or over the atmosphere. I start releasing peace in the aircraft rather than releasing fear and just that panic that we're going to die because we hit a little bit of turbulence. And so I've really likened that analogy with my children in this hour and said, we are in an aircraft right now. Our family is in an aircraft. The whole wide world is in an aircraft, but we are in our own little aircraft, and there's turbulence, and we are hitting some bumps. The whole wide world is going through this. But I tell them, we're not going to die. We are not going to die. And we're not going to keep our eyes on the news. Come on, when you're in an aircraft and there's turbulence, I'm talking like crazy turbulence. We don't go check the news. We don't go check what other aircrafts are doing or other pilots are doing. We don't even check with our friends. Like the only thing that we want that pilot. We are so focused on the pilot who knows what he's doing and has his hands on the steering wheel, whatever you call it in an airplane. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're going on. That's what's going through or happening in the world right now. Is we're in this aircraft and there is turbulence, but we need to put our eyes and our focus on the pilot. And that obviously is God. He knows how to steer this plane for our family. We don't need to worry about what he's doing in the whole wide world right now. And for our family, we need to know how to steer our plane as we're listening to the pilot. And I just feel like this is so significant. So that's a great verbiage to tell your children. Yep, we're in an aircraft and there's some turbulence today. Turbulence looks like we're not going to school, public school. We're not seeing your friends. We're not going out to the parks as much. It's kind of feels like some turbulence. But we're going to be okay, and we're going to trust this pilot to land this plane so that we can get off and we can go about our lives. And so I just think that's just a great way to explain it to the children. And before I move on, and just a quick word of encouragement for your children in this hour, I just want to speak to, especially to your moms, to the moms. This is not the time. This is not the hour to be an emotional murderer. This is not the time to partner with being a victim to your circumstances or even a victim to your children. And I just want to tell you, I have a parent ministry. So I have been connecting with thousands of parents around the globe in this hour. And I want to tell you that there is not a parent out there that is not affected by this. And that I am just seeing the most amazing testimonies of, come on, when you're in the aircraft, what's the first thing they say is in the event of a disaster, in the event of a situation, parents, you have to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help your children. And if you're trying to help your children and you don't have it on yourself, it is not going to work. And so this is not the time to be an emotional murderer. So if you're feeling and you're experiencing emotional stuff or tears or frustration or like you're at the end of your rope or whatever, you got to trust the pilot. You got to trust what he's doing in you and take those breaks. I know it's hard. I know it's so hard. Have a bubble bath, go out in the garage and cry, I have one friend, she posted yesterday, they had a screaming, like they all sat and just screamed because they're so mad at them. That's okay. She was getting those emotions out. And this is what I want to say to you, especially you moms, that as parents, as moms are doing that and they're letting those emotions get out, whether it's from the past stuff or just frustrations about their current world or fear of the future, this is what's happening. God is starting to transform something in them. And I am hearing scores and scores and scores of testimonies of parents starting to say, I actually turbulence and I'm on the side. And this is a sweet time. This is a calm time in my family. This is a time of connection. This is a time of cleaning stuff up and about going deeper. And I'm just prophesying that over you right now, that as you let your pilot lead your family, your plane in this hour, you can definitely get through the turbulence and you can find those blue skies again in this hour. But parents, it's not the time to be an emotional martyr. Let God have his way with you and your emotions so that you can find that breakthrough. So praise God for that. So I want to go back really quick, and I just want to give you a word. Don't lie to your children in this hour. Do not lie to your children. And I want to share a testimony form. When our fire broke out in Reading, a while back, we were probably about 4 or 5 days into the fire. There still was a lot of, the fire was not out. There was risk and there was threats still coming in. There was the loss of lives, and we were still in that hour. So it was pretty scary for us as parents. And so a lot of unknowns, and that we didn't just have one fire that came through our city. We had other fires around us that were kind of coming towards us. And so things were pretty intense for us for a while. And about 4 or 5 days into it, I called a bunch of moms over and just wanted them to just process. I just wanted them to put the oxygen mask on themselves and just get some of the junk out. And one sweet mom, a good friend of mine, she said, yeah, I've got these 4 kids. And she said, they are just like going to town. Like they are so mean to each other, and they're just disrespectful and disobeying. And she said, there is just constant strife in my family. And she was just beside herself because, come on, children that fight wear out parents, right? And yeah, it's just a hard thing to maneuver when you're going through your own stuff. And so anyways, I said to her, well, what did you tell the children about the fire? And she said, well, my husband and I decided we weren't going to tell our children anything. We were just going to go ahead and protect them from that. And we told them it was nothing. And I looked at her and I said, basically, you lied to your children. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, come on. I said, there's a time and a place to rebuke fear because it's just a demonic spirit of fear. And there's a time and to walk in our authority. And there's a time and a place where there's a real threat. There's real turbulence. This is a serious thing that we are dealing with as a worldwide family. And I said, and I'm back with the fire. I said, okay, with her specifically with the fire, this is a real threat. And I said, people were losing their lives and losing their homes, and our whole town was grieving, and there was anxiety and anguish going on, wailing. And I said, I don't believe that you should tell your children all those details. I don't believe that you should open them up to fear. But here's the thing, they feel it. They feel it in their gut. They have discernment. They can feel the atmosphere. And I said, so they're feeling something and they're acting it out because they're insecure and they're anxious about it. And then mom and dad come and tell them, it's nothing. It's nothing. So what you're doing is you're cutting children off from following you and believing in you and from what they're feeling inside. And we don't want to do that. We do not want to teach our children in this hour to ignore their gut and to ignore what they're feeling and what they're feeling in the atmosphere. We don't want to go to the side of telling them all the details, but we don't want to go to the side of ignoring it and dumbing it down and pretending like it's no big deal, because turbulence is turbulence. And when a child is in an aircraft, they feel it too, right? And so what I told the mom is I said, don't go telling them all about the death. Don't tell them that the fire is still maybe raging on. Don't go tell them all that stuff. But I want you to go home and first apologize for not being honest with them and saying what you were feeling was right. But mommy and daddy were trying to protect you. But you are right. There is something going on. And then here was the key. Is I said, look for Jesus in the story. Look for the God stories in the turbulence. And I said, you can start painting the picture for them. Their house is still standing. They're still together as a family. The firemen are working so hard that many houses have been saved, and we still have food on the table. And you're looking for these God stories in the midst of the turbulence, and it builds it's like building bricks for the children of like, wow, that was hard. Wow, that was scary. But Jesus was right there with me. And you're pointing out where Jesus is in the story, and that we can do this in this hour. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, there's turbulence, and Jesus is all over this one. And he's in your aircraft. He's in your family, not just all over the place, but he's in your family. And you have to look for those moments. We still have a roof over our head. We still have family. You still have your bed. You still have your friends, even though you can't, see them right now. They're still your friends. Thank God for technology. And you're going after those God stories in the midst of the turbulence. Super, super important. So I want to share this with you really quick because this is super interesting. So typically I reserve my parent coaching to either those taking my online class, or I've already been through that, or I reserve it for the people that are in Reading where I can do it face to face. And just to try to not overwhelm myself with too many appointments just by keeping those boundaries around it. And the Lord told me last week, because he said, go ahead and open that up to people either that haven't taken your class or that are not in Reading. Obviously, we can't get together right now. And so I did that, and I'm telling you, I have had quite a few coaching appointments, and it is amazing how almost every single one of them, and I'm actually so excited to be able to tell you guys this, almost every single coaching appointment. Come on, in parenting, there's 1,001 different things we could go after, we could talk about, but in almost all of them, it has been parents of like children of age 3 to 5, generally firstborn, not always, but generally firstborn. And they are battling in their families these strong-willed children that are, they've said things like, my child is controlling the home, or my child is so strong, or my child is like, being defiant, or like, they want what they want when they want it. And it has been amazing to walk through, come on you guys, this is so exciting, to walk through this generation of children being out of bounds. In some of their cases, it's been out of bounds in their family line, such as like an authoritative parent that shut down the child, and then the next generation didn't use their authority, and then the next generation rebelled against it. You know what I'm saying? So just authority being used out of bounds, coming into an alignment. I lost my train of thought there. But anyways, but this is the generation where God is restoring and aligning authority, not in control and not in rebellion and not for self-serving, but establishing authority underneath his kingdom, underneath his covering, to be the light and the change on earth today. There's no coincidence that I was doing these coaching appointments, and almost every one of them was going after alignment of authority. This is why going after character in your home is so important in this hour, because part of going after character is teaching children to submit to authority that is your covering, and that's kingdom. This is so kingdom. I just feel like there is such a charge in families awakened to God-given authority right now. It's so amazing. I want to encourage you with authority, to don't just weather the turbulence and the storm that we're in, putting the oxygen mask on yourself and just like entertaining or keeping your kids busy or whatever. Bring them into this God story. Bring them into the story. I am so convinced, I had this word many years ago, but I am so convinced that the homeless population, the homeless situation that we have, especially in America, it is going to be solved by a child. That somebody is going to explain it on the child level, and they are going to partner with Jesus, and they're going to have keys and solutions how to deal with a homeless situation. The answer and the solution is going to come through a child. I have believed that. Like I know that those keys are going to come through a child. That your children are so powerful in this hour. So what I want you to do is I want you to help them be part of the solution. So you can't be a victim. You cannot be a victim when you are part of the solution. And you can't partner with hopelessness when you are an active part of doing something to change what's going on. Just like me being in the aircraft, and either I can release that fear to everybody around me, and I can bring my heart to this place of hopelessness, and I can kind of release that over the pilot, or I can flip it, and I can declare my pilot knows what he's doing, and I'm going to release peace to everybody around me that's on edge. But anyways, so what I want you to do is I want you to, on a regular basis, check in with the kiddos, check in with them. How are you feeling? What's going on? And anytime they say something like, I'm scared, or it doesn't feel right, or I miss my friend, what I want you to do is I want you to help them get anchored into the truth. So go search a word, find a scripture that applies to that. So let's just say they're feeling a little scared and anxious inside. Find a verse that says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything give thanks. And so what I want you to do is I want you to help them be like, listen to them, listen to what they're seeing and feeling. be anchored in the Word of God, be anchored in the truth, and then I want you to marry those two together and help your child do a verb. I want them to be a verb, to do a verb. And the verb could look like this. It could look like writing it out. It could look like drawing it out. It could look like putting it on a piece of paper and shredding it. It could look like burning it, like, the anxiety. Write down anxiety and this picture of anxiety and how their tummy feels. Shred it, burn it, flush it, stomp on it, write it on the mirror and erase it. We've done writing on the mirror, and then we spray it with water, and the colors all drip. There's 1,001 ways you guys can be creative with this. I want you to act out the verse. Be anxious for nothing. So maybe you would stand in a circle and you would say something you're anxious for, and like the whole family would act out, no, we're taking the anxiety off, whatever. You're just going to act it out. You're going to put a verb into that. So instead of sitting on your plane and releasing dread and releasing all this fear and hopelessness, your household is actually going to be the one that is releasing the solution and releasing the right kingdom in this hour. I love this. I love this so much. God is absolutely highlighting authority right now. And it is not just your authority, it is your children's authority, and bringing it into alignment. This is so powerful. Lastly, I just want to say this. You have two weapons in your back pocket right now that are they are major weapons of mass destruction. And the first one is find joy. Find pockets of joy. I know when we went through our most darkest, most painful season in our family, our pediatrician said, Lisa, you got to find pockets of joy, because joy releases a chemical in your brain that gives you the will to fight. So when you're in a traumatic situation, when you're in turbulence on the aircraft, you're not really thinking about joy. You're not really thinking of dance parties. You're not really thinking of that. But it is survival right now to get those joy chemicals back up for you and your children. So I love to do that. I love to say to my kids, oh, you guys, I just want to partner with some joy right now. What should we do? And it's amazing how the kids, come on, childlike faith, kids know how to partner with joy. So I would have a daily assignment on you. I know there's a lot on you guys right now, but make sure joy is on that list too. Every day we're going to wake up and we're going to have pockets of joy, and we're going to release that in our aircraft, in our family today. The second thing is connection. You got to know your children's love languages, because you're going to spend your whole time going after trying to fill their tank. But if you do not know their language, you're going to miss the mark. And if you know their love language, you can spend 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes and deposit something deep into their heart. It's a survival for you guys right now. Joy and connection. First of all, putting the oxygen mask on yourself and not being an emotional martyr, and processing your own heart, number 1. Number 2, aligning authority. Number 3, going after joy. Number 4, going after connection. And I just want to end with this really quick. I would say that I walk in great peace. I walk in great peace. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of my identity, and that God is driving my airplane. He's been doing this for a long time for me. Yeah, I know who my pilot is, and so I would say that that's a strength. That's a strength of mine. And I will tell you that every time I sit in front of that news, in Fox News, whatever, every time I sit in front of that news, it takes me a couple hours to go back and to try to find that place of peace again. And I'm not saying don't watch the news. I'm not saying don't be informed. But I'm saying when we feast on that all the time, we can't get our eyes on the pilot. When we feast on that all the time, it does something to our joy levels, to our chemicals in our brain. It does something to our mind, body, and spirit that is affecting you. Give it a little bit of an experiment. Go one whole day, 24 hours, with no news or no social media, and see what a difference it makes in you. But I also want to say this. This is super important for you guys to understand. Even if you have the news on and you have all these doom reports and all this fear and all this weird stuff going on behind the news right now, even if your children don't understand the words, they're not even in the same room, they are not sitting right by you watching it, you think you're protecting them, they feel it in the atmosphere. And I give testimony of this. The number one thing that parents, that I've heard parents say from all over, is that they encountered a spirit of fear as a child based on what the parents had on TV. They weren't watching it, they weren't seeing it, they weren't witnessing it, but as parents are consuming themselves with this, something is released into the aircraft, their plane, into their family, into their living room, and the children come under that. And if you're feeling heavy, you can only imagine what your children are feeling. But they don't have the same coping mechanisms, and they don't have the same brain capacity to be able to process that. And so I just want to caution you. I want to caution you about how much you're allowing that stuff, those bad reports, into your home, that you have permission to go radio silent with the rest of the world for a little bit and to just focus on the pilot. So anyways, I hope that helps. There's obviously so much more that we could unpack with this, but I felt like it was a word this morning about authority, that God is realigning and reestablishing authority in our homes, and especially with our children. Your children are not victims. Come on. Don't you think we are walking, never walked through, ever. Nobody on earth has ever walked through what we walked through. Maybe similar things, but not like this. Don't you think that God knew what he was doing when he wired us together? Don't you think that as he's putting me together, he's like, hey, when you're at this age, this is going to happen to you, and you're going to need some stuff inside to be able to cope with that. And I'm going to maneuver your circumstances hours and days, weeks, years before that to equip you in this hour. Don't you think God knew that about our children? Don't you think that he knew that they were going to be the ones in this hour to walk through this? And don't you think he wired them to be able to be overcomers and to bring the right kingdom and to be with him as he lands this plane well? I believe that. I believe that. And so we need to do our job to get the wrong stuff off our plane and to bring the right stuff in. So anyways, it's always hard because there's so much more to share, but I just wanted to give you a little bite size this morning. So love you all. You are doing an incredible job walking this out, and super excited to see how God begins to land our planes one by one as we walk through this. So, okay, bye-bye.